Hello, everybody. Welcome back or welcome to the Aural Theory series. My name is Dr. Julia Alford. In today's video, we are going to start looking at modulation in harmonic dictation. And we're going to work through a basic modulation together, and then I'm going to follow this up with two short videos, doing two more practices that you can go on after this and practice. If this series has been helpful to you, please do click that subscribe button, click the like button. If you get to the end and you're still watching and you still like it, I really appreciate that. And let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so first of all, when we say modulation, what do we mean? We don't mean just an applied chord of like a 5 of 5 and then all of a sudden we're in 5. No, it has to continue on, the music has to continue on in the key and be confirmed by a cadence. Okay, you typically is confirmed by a cadence, or there's different things that can happen, but that's the basic idea of it. So, and there's only certain places we can go, especially when you're starting out. There's really only a few options. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at it. Okay, so here I have a basic setup of the circle of fifths. So it's our various keys. If you're not familiar with this, I'm not going to go into too much depth with it, but basically the idea is that, you know, it starts with C with 0 sharps or flats, and then as you go around, you add 1 sharp or flat each direction. So G has 1 sharp, D has 2 sharps, A, 3, 4, and then we kind of get a mix here. We'll get back to the flats on the other side. 5, 6, and 7 sharps with C sharp. Okay, so then with F, we get 1 flat, 2, 3, 4, sorry, that should be D flat, 5, 6, and C. C is always all or nothing, and its relative minor of A is also always all or nothing. Okay, so in the black, you've got your major keys. In the blue, you've got your minor keys. So they're just, you know, E minor and G major have the same key signature. Okay, so let's remind ourselves we're starting in E flat. So if we're going to a closely related key, which is, especially for the classical era, the majority of the modulation that you're going to have. So basically what that means is that we can go up or down 1 sharp or flat. So if we're starting, so if E is our tonic chord, we can go less 1 flat, and that would be to B flat, which would be our dominant key. So we're going to take those chord names that we've been talking about and talk about now in terms of key relationships. So if you go to the key based on the 5 chord, you're going to the dominant key. Okay, now if you gain a flat, you're going to go to A flat, which is your subdominant key. And then you could also go to your relative minor, which there's a little bit of change, which I'm not going to get into in this video. In the next video, we're going to look at a minor key modulation. So we'll talk about what can change there, actually in the next couple of videos. And then same thing, you could also go to, so your C minor would be your 6, F minor would be your 2, and G minor would be your 3. This one and this one are not as common. It's much more common to go to, you should still think about them and consider them, but it's much more common to go to the dominant, subdominant, or the relative major or minor. Okay. Again, there's some, if you're starting in a minor key or you go to a minor key, there's some things that go along with that in terms of key signatures, mainly addition or subtraction of leading tones. So we'll kind of take a look at that as we go. Okay, good. So this is our dictation. We're in E flat major. Again, let's kind of think through, first of all, our keys. So from the circle of fifth, if we're starting at E flat, which is our 1, we could go our closely related keys if we start with the major chords. And it's nice to separate out the possible keys by quality, because the first thing we're going to do is listen for the quality of the last chord to help us like cut out some options. So E flat, the next major key would be 4, which is A flat, and then 5, which is B flat. Okay, so add a flat or subtract a flat. Minor, so the relative minor of E flat is C, and that is R6. And then R2, I'm thinking through the relative minors of the major keys, it would be F, and then the relative of B flat, which is also R3, is G. Okay, so those are our key options. So now one more thing I want to give you is this chord here, chord 6, is our pivot chord. So that a pivot chord is a chord that works in both the key that we start in and the key that we end in. So basically there's no accidentals that would, there's no pitches that wouldn't work in either key. And it's typically the last chord before the dominant in the new key. Okay, not always. There's some exceptions to that. All right, so first things first, you're going to listen for the quality of this last chord. If it's major, then we can strike 3 options. If it's minor, we can also strike 3 options. So if you get along that way, I want you to start by listening for, because you're not just going to like waste a whole listening and just to grab one chord. You're also going to listen for anything that sounds crunchy or dominant. Okay, because that's going to give you some big clues. And then if you get all that, you also want to listen for, so let's write this out. Quality of last chord, and then crunchy sounding chords, so dominant or diminished. And then you're going to listen for function or phrase model. So is it tonic expansion or alternative opening? Okay, so that's what you're listening for in order. Okay, the most important thing is the quality of the last chord and those crunchy chords. And if you can get a little bit of function ID, that's great too, but not the most important thing right now. Okay, so let's do that first listening. Okay, last chord was major. Okay, let's do another listening. I'm going to turn down the bass just a little bit to kind of help you grab the quality of those chords. So. Okay, good. You can grab more listings if you want to. But if we look, this chord, which makes sense, is a bit crunchy. It's the last chord after the pivot chord, so it's probably going to be dominant. The second to last chord, probably a little bit crunchy. And then one more right here, if you didn't grab that. The fourth chord had a little bit of a zing to it. So let's go on. Actually, no, pause. The last chord's major, so we can get rid of 3 keys. We can strike those out. So we are going to A flat or B flat. So only 2 options. Now, if we think through those keys, A flat adds a flat. So we would have some D flats added onto it. B flat removes a flat. So we would have A naturals. That's really important to remember because if you forget accidentally, you're going to lose points. It's also good to understand it. But Let's take a listen for the bass. We're going to start on E flat. Also, if you're interested, the soprano also starts on an E flat. There we go. I'm going to play it once all the way through, and then we're going to talk about the first half. So even if you can only sketch in the first half, that's good. See if you can get up through the pivot chord. It just moves by step. And then kind of listen for where it goes after the pivot chord, but don't worry about writing anything down. So I've got do, ti, do, re, mi, fa. Okay. So we end on fa in E flat, and then we're going to either A flat, so that would be do, or actually this is a big clue. This is a huge clue. If you were going to B flat, would that work as the pivot chord? No, because B flat has an A natural. So we have to be going to A flat. This is do. Bob's your uncle. Everything's good. And stupid British term. So that's your new do, because if this were B flat, that would have to be A natural and it would be T. Okay, so there you go. You're good. So now we can carry on from there. So if we sing this, we would be singing something along the lines of do, do, ti, do, re, mi, fa, do. So when you're listening to it, see if you can switch in your head from fa to do, and then take down the rest of it. Okay? Okay, so I heard a couple of things that would help. The first is from that 6th chord, do. So if we leap up from do to a dominant chord and resolve down by step, what do we have? We have do, fa, mi, because we're going to a dominant. If you're, this is class, you can always count on this. If you leap up to the dominant and resolve down by step, it means that you're going to the 5-4-2 to a 1-6. Okay, so if you didn't know that this chord here that you're going to was dominant, that'd be tricky, but it is dominant. So you're leaping up to fa in your new key. So do, fa, mi. And then where does it go? It goes back to just fa, sol, do. There you go. You've got your bass line. Okay. It's obviously I'm kind of rushing through this, but trying to keep the video somewhat at a decent length. Let's go and listen to the soprano and see if we can grab that. So if I'm thinking through this backwards, which is never a bad idea, I hear a perfect authentic cadence at the end, so I know I end do. A lot I could say. I'm gonna just play it again and listen again, and then we'll talk about it. So grab more lists if you want them, but let's take a look at it. So do, re, do, ti, do, and then we go down to la, which la in our la in E flat, but in A flat, that is what? Mi. Okay, so you want to start thinking of mi, mi, re, mi, then down to do, ti, do. Okay. So now let's think through what chords we have. If you were able to grab the function, and even this bass line would tell you that this is tonic expansion, right? Do, ti, do, re, mi, E flat, the A flat. If this is a major chord, which we're pretty sure it is, because we're going to A flat major, and that's what makes sense. You also have do and mi, so that would be your 4 chord. So that's kind of your predominant, except it doesn't go beyond that. It kind of faked out what we would expect with the predominant dominant tonic and goes to a modulation. So, and we know this is a 5-4-2. We've already established that, to a 1-6. So let's kind of look. So at the beginning, we've got 1, some kind of 5-6 or 6-5. You'll want to listen for that. Back to the 1. Now we've got re. So again, that's our wild card. So passing 6-4, 5-4-3, 7 diminished 6. Listen to that. We did say that that was a little bit crunchy, but that could be a 7 diminished 6 or a 5-4-3. Okay. Then probably a 1-6 to the 4, and then the pivot chord. We're going to draw this a little special. Some people will put a box. I like to do a little step thing. So 4 in the old key, then we write the name of our new key, and then we're going to think about what it is in the new key, and it's a 1. So you want to confirm, because that could potentially be a 2-6 to a 6-6. So if that, but that would be weird, kind of getting to the 6-6 to the 5-4-2 would sound all kind of jarbled. So, but do just double check that it's major or minor when you're listening for that. And then the fa could be a 4 or a 2-6. And then this could be a 5 or a 5-7. And then this is our 1 in our new key. Okay, so let's take just one more listening. Listen for the quality of all those chords that you want to be listening for. See if you can tell if this chord here is that 4th chord is a 7 diminished 6 or 5-4-3. Honestly, as a teacher, I'm not terribly fussed about it. If you hear that it's dominant and you know what the function is, it's cool. Some teachers are particular, though. So see what you can glean from that. One more listening. All right, grab more lessons if you need them. Let's pop in the answer here in 3, 2, 1. Here you go. Okay, so starting E flat, 1, just 5-6, 1, 7 diminished 6, 1-6, 4 becomes 1. On my computer, so it's a little hard to draw the step. 5-4-2, 1-6, major chord there with 4, 5-7, and 1. That's a little harder to grab because it's missing the 5th of the chords. It's not quite as crunchy, but it's still there. You've got the E flat and the D flat on those inner voices, to a 1 chord there at the end. Also this chord here, the 4th chord with that re in the bass, is the 7 diminished 6. All right, great. That's it. So please do, again, hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, leave me a comment, leave me a question. I'd love to hear what else you would like to see. And once you've processed this, go on to the next video and we'll do some practice of modulation in a minor key. And I'll see y'all there. Okay, bye.